Hi, David. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Hi, Elijah. I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here, like I mentioned earlier. Thank you. And David, you see, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two main things, and I do this so often that I think it has even become my anthem because I say it often, and that's because I mean it. I mean it. So, firstly, David, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, David, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, I was on a particular road some months back. Okay, can you still hear me? Okay, sorry. Now I'm back. My network went off.
Good.
Yeah, it went off. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I said some months back I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it and the leaves were all dry. I just walked past it. But you see, just recently, David, I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and you see not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes. It was a beautiful moment that day. I was so excited. Now, here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to say nope to you, tell you. Because reading about you, I was attracted to, you see, the fruit of all that you're doing and the impact that your work is having. It's amazing. So thank you so very much, David, for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for being here.
That is such a wonderful metaphor, Elijah. It just really hits home with me.
Thank you. So let's get started, David. Okay, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today, David, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. And not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing David on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, David, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, powerful, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, David, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We are just so curious right now. We want to know how David got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some really beautiful questions for you. Okay, David, over to you.
Great. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So I grew up in Minnesota. I went to college here in Minnesota. I graduated with a degree in history and journalism. I thought I was going to become a newspaper reporter, but that simply didn't happen. I fell into a career in government instead, and specifically in administering elections. First at the county and city level, and then in 2019, I was appointed to be the director of elections for the state of Minnesota for the Secretary of State here. So I've spent most of my career as an election official, which is a very unique field to be in. So I have absolutely enjoyed my career. And then last December, I published a memoir called This Is Not Who We Are, which chronicles kind of how I got into elections, my career, but other aspects of my life as well. My lifelong struggle with depression, my love of cats, some of the relationships I've had in my life. And so I'm very proud because when I was in junior high, my goal in life was to publish a book, and to get it done last year was a major accomplishment. I think the thing that I learned in writing and then eventually publishing the book was the importance of being my authentic self. I'm in this day and age of social media where we all portray ourselves as the best we can be and not always our authentic selves. I thought it was important to tell a story that's really based on some of my struggles with depression, how my life didn't go the way I had planned when I was growing up, but it's certainly been a life I've enjoyed living. Um, just the importance of being my authentic self and sharing that story into the world has just been a joyful thing for me this past year.
Amazing, David. There's nothing as beautiful as being your authentic self. And that's a great one, you know. And I tell you, okay, you mentioned depression. So I'm going to pick the first question from there. How did you deal with depression?
Well, depression is something I'm still dealing with. It's something that I think started when I was a teenager. I eventually got hospitalized for depression for a couple of weeks. I've tried the traditional things like medication and talk therapy, which have helped some. I've tried some more experimental things like ketamine treatments. I don't know if you know what ketamine is, but it's kind of not a conventional treatment for depression. I've done hypnotherapy. A lot of the way I have dealt with depression, I love, like I mentioned, I love to write. I journal every night. I just love sharing my feelings and thoughts on paper. And so that's been a major way of battle depression is through my writing.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I feel like that's a great solution. And maybe some people might find that useful too. It could be writing, it could be meditating, it could be just writing poems or something. I got that. Okay, so let's talk about mental health care system. What's your experience with the mental health care system? Can you share some with us?
Like I said, I've gone through the traditional ways that depression is treated through medication and talk therapy, and I found that somewhat useful, but not terribly useful because I'm still struggling with depression. This past summer, I actually went through another partial hospitalization where I went to the hospital during the day and then was allowed to come home at night. And one of the things I found through that process is there are a lot of people out there that are really struggling these days. The program was very full. When I go to my ketamine treatments, the lobby is full of people waiting to get treated. So I think a lot of us are struggling, especially since the pandemic. So I'm really, if I write a second book, I think it's really going to be about my experiences in dealing with um, the mental health system. I think people are doing their best to help treat people, but I don't know if what we're doing is actually getting to the root of the problem. And so I'm really curious into exploring different ways that alternative ways that we might start treating depression. I don't know what those are, but if I write a second book, that's what it's going to be about.
Got it. So let's get personal a bit, David. Why do you love cats?
Why do I love cats? I think it actually has to do with my depression. The first cat I got was right out of college, and it was when I was shortly after I got out of the hospital for depression. I always thought I wanted a pet when I was growing up, but my sisters were allergic to both dogs and cats. And so when I moved out on my own, I thought I was going to get a dog because that's what I wanted when I was a kid. But I discovered taking care of a cat was a lot easier than taking care of a dog. I could leave a cat on its own for a longer period of time. I didn't have to take it out to do its business. And so my first cat was Mr. Max, and Mr. Max really helped me with my depression back then. Just being able to have somebody to come home to, somebody that was always just living in the moment, and having a cat on your lap purring, there's no way to feel sad when that happens. So my love of cats has been pretty much ever since I moved out on my own. I currently have 3 cats. They're all wonderful. I love the way they interact with each other. I love how they have individual personalities that are very different from each other. And I love interacting individually with all of them. So yes, lifelong love of cats.
Okay, this particular topic interests me really much because I like animals, all right, and I love to understand their characteristics. So, can you share some characteristics of cats with us?
Well, I'll talk about my three current cats. So two of them, Norma and Alias, came from the same litter. I adopted them when they were kittens, and they have very different personalities. Norma's probably the most neurotic cat I've had. She's not a lap cat. She likes to spend a lot of time by herself, but she loves her brother Alias. They nap together all the time. They play together all the time. They make a wonderful team. And Alias is a very friendly cat, loves to sit on my lap. He's on my lap right now, in fact. But he's just a very calm and really nice cat. And then my third cat is named Kenta, and I adopted him last year. He's a big, poofy, medium-haired gray cat. He's a very goofy cat. He's very friendly. He loves to play with toys. He loves his brother Alias. He gets along with Norma. But again, like I was saying, they all have their different personalities, and in learning how to spend special time with each of them, it makes my day special. And I love their personalities.
Beautiful, that's a great one. And now that interests me good, and I feel like I'll try to get a cat. Okay, so
I think you should. I think
yeah,
it'd make your life better.
so there are genders. How many do we have, male and female? And how many? You mentioned three, right? How many males and how many female?
Yep. So Alias and Kenta are males, and then Norma's a female. Norma's the very first female cat I've had. I've only had male
Oh,
cats before.
wow, amazing. And you see, I like animals because I feel like animals at times are more wiser and smarter than some humans. You see, I said that for a reason. A male cat will never ever find another male cat attractive. Unlike those folks that you get it. So I feel like these guys, they actually have sense and they use it. And they know what is right and they know what is wrong. So I then decided, I say, yeah, I think I'm going to make these guys my friends. And I started doing research, some animals. And now that you've talked to me about cat, David, I'm definitely going to get some cat. I'll make them a male and a female. All right. Okay.
I absolutely encourage you to do that.
Beautiful. So we have just two more questions to go. So what do you hope readers gain from your story?
Well, like I was saying, I think the thing I learned in writing it was the importance of being my authentic self. And so I hope anyone that reads the book is inspired to do the same. I think as we tell our own individual stories, it really is important in improving the world around us. And I'll use the topic of race. When somebody looks at me as an Asian American, they lump me into this big group of people, and there are stereotypes on Asian Americans. But if they read my story, they'll understand that I'm an individual person. Sure, being Asian American is part of who I am, but I'm an individual. In telling my individual story, it makes me more, I guess, a human being to anybody else that gets to know me. So I think what I hoped in writing this book, as I've mentioned before, is inspiring others to tell their stories and being their authentic selves.
Beautiful. And that's a great one because I feel like it's a very important story. And thank you for writing the memo and the book. Okay, so to bring this to an end, David, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed, or even ask questions, or even make a purchase of your book, how can that be possible?
Sure. So I think the message I'd like to leave with folks is the world has gotten a lot tougher since 2020. I think we can all agree the pandemic is a very difficult thing to endure and get past. I think my message is hang in there. I know there are people struggling with mental health issues, like I mentioned before, but it's always worth getting through today to get to tomorrow. And so hang in there if you're struggling, is my message. As far as getting a hold of me, I have a website, davidmaeda.com. So it's David, and my last name is spelled Maeda.com. And through that webpage, you can email me, you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn and other social media. And you can also, it has a link to purchase my book if you are interested in reading my book.
Beautiful. So that's gonna be the end of the show, David. Thank you for coming, and thank you for educating us as to your story, the insight in it, invaluable, and even about cats. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day, David.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.